Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
Similarly, if you are creating a database on RDS, you will use DB instances. So these are the fundamental basic building block of Amazon RDS. They are isolated database environment in the cloud. And they can contain multiple user created databases. So what do you mean by user created database? If you have an instance of Oracle running, if you have instance of an Oracle running, you will create some users in your database, right? Scott is a user, or maybe you will create any user um, by using your federated identity. So that user's creation can be done on databases. So DB instance is your basic building block of RDS. It is like your database server. If you talk in simple terms, it is like your database server.
So the different databases that you mentioned, like SQL Server, MySQL, and all that. So does it support only those or other ones also? Like if we have Vertica database, suppose that's not mentioned in the list. So those will not be supported here.
No, RDS as a service, as a managed service, it is supported only for these databases.
Okay.
Using RDS as a managed service, you cannot use any other database before other than this thing. But there is always an option of doing your custom installation on EC2. Use an EC2, install your database, any other database if you have, and you can still use that on cloud.
Okay.
What database did you mention, by the way?
Vertica. So we
Vertica.
are using Postgres and Vertica, two databases. So
Okay.
that's why I asked.
So as a managed service, you cannot use it.
Okay.
So on the databases, if you are using RDS, because this is a managed service, you have an option of automatic backups. And when you turn the automatic backup on your DB instance, RDS will automatically perform a daily snapshot of your database. It will always take a snapshot and captures that and stores that within S3. And if you want to give initiate a recovery time, you can use the transactional logs to recover to the appropriate time of the backup, wherever you specify the time for. So RDS retains the backup of a DB instance for a limited user period of retention period. By default, it is 35 days. Okay, it allows you to choose a retention period of up to 35 days. So you have to enable the automatic backups, and using automatic backups, you can restore to any point in time, and you can choose a retention period up to 35 days. 35 days is the limit.
After that, the backup will be deleted or something?
Yeah, so every time it will be rotated, right? So you will get a daily backup, right? So when you do 35 days retention period, you will have 35 days backups. Every day's backup will be there for 35 amount of days.
Right.
So it will sort of rotate. So last backup after 35 days will be deleted. So maybe
Okay.
this will be there, then this will be there. So at any point you will have 35 backups.
Okay.
Other than this, so this is about automatic backups. But if you want to take manual snapshot, you can still do that. And you can store them as long as you want. But they have to be stored on Amazon S3. So you can create snapshots, you have to initiate them. They are long lived unless you delete them, and they are stored on S3. And then there is this cross region snapshots. Cross region snapshots is available for RDS engine. You can copy snapshots of any size. Copies can be moved between AWS regions. You can copy the same snapshot to multiple regions also. Okay, and this snapshot is the copy operation is free by itself. You can copy for free, but you only pay for the data transfer from within regions. If your data is transferred from within regions, you will have to pay for it. Otherwise, the cross region is available as a feature. It is available for free to use. And if you consider the RDS security, um, you can manage its security by running the DB instance in VPC. You run your DB instance within a VPC. So as we know that VPC is virtual private cloud, you will automatically isolate your DB from external access, and it will be within a confined boundary. It will be available to use. So you have the method you use to manage access depends on what task the user needs to perform with RDS. If you run it in VPC, that is giving you the greatest possible network control access. Other than that, you can use IAM policies to grant access to the RDS. You can use IAM policy to give explicit access to your RDS resource. You can use security groups as well. You can use secured socket layer SSL connections. SSL connections can be used so that you have all data which is coming to your database in the transit. Also, your data is secured. You can use RDS encryption to secure instances and snapshots at rest. If you want to encrypt your data also, that is possible in RDS. And then you can use network encryption and transparent data encryption with Oracle DB and Microsoft SQL Server instances also. And you can use security features of DB engine to control who can log into the database on a DB instance, as you would do for any database. If it is like a local database, what will you do for ensuring the access? You will obviously create database users and roles and permissions, right? So you can use all the security features of your DB engine also to give restricted access to your DB instance. So these are the different options using which you can provide security to your RDS instances. On VPC, use IAMs, you can use security groups, use SSL for secured connections, use encryptions if you want, and then you use these things only for these two types of databases: network encryption and transparent data encryption. And typically, what do you do on a database engine? You have all those security features to be used. You create users, you create permissions, authentications, all that thing you can do it here as well. So what should be a simple application architecture look like? when you use databases with EC2, and this is how it should be look. This should look like a simple application architecture should have elastic load balancer instance, which has two instances of EC2, so that if one fails, the other can be taken to provide a fault tolerance based mechanism. And your Amazon RDS database instance should be there at the back end, which takes snapshots and stores it on the EC S3. So in general, this is how a simple application architecture should look like, at least. When you want to have a multi-AZ deployment for providing a failover and fault tolerant architecture, you should consider choosing multi-AZ deployment for your database to synchronously replicate to another availability zone in the same region. So multi-AZ deployment is highly recommended. Your database is synchronously replicated to another in the same another availability zone in the same region. It provides you a failover to the standby automatically occurs in case of master database failure, and you can have planned maintenance if applied. So a resilient, durable application architecture should look like this, where you have elastic load balancer at the beginning, and you have two EC2 instances on each availability zone maybe. So you have 4 EC2 instances, and you have a master deployment and a slave deployment on RDS, and they are replicating in multi-AZ standby. So master is in one AZ, and standby is in another AZ, or slave is in another AZ, and you have this multi-AZ deployment on database, and you still have snapshot enabled to store in S3 periodically. So some best practices, what you have to consider: always monitor your memory, CPU, and storage usage. You can use CloudWatch for that. You can set up alarms in CloudWatch to notify you when the pattern changes. Use multi-AZ deployments to automatically provision and maintain synchronously standby replica in different AC. You have to use multi-AZ. Enable automatic backups so that you set up a backup window where you have low writes. Maybe if you have low writes at any given point in time, do the backup at that time. The window has to be selected judiciously, and then you enable the backup during low write-offs. Then to increase the IOPS capacity, you can migrate to a DB instance class with high IOPS capacity, convert from standard storage to provisioned IOPS, use provision additional throughput capacity if you want. And then if your client application is caching the DNS data, set a TATL of less than 30 seconds. Okay. And test failover of your DB instance. You always have to make sure you test for failover. So that was about RDS. RDS is a relational database. We just spoke about that. Then let's talk about DynamoDB. So DynamoDB is one NoSQL offering by Amazon. This is also a managed service, but this is in NoSQL format. This offers high performance, predictable throughput, and low cost. It is easy to set and operate. With DynamoDB, you can start with a small and specify the throughput and storage you need, and you can easily scale your capacity within seconds. This automatically partitions data over multiple servers to meet your requested capacity. In addition, by default, Amazon DynamoDB automatically replicates your data synchronously across multiple AZs. within AWS region. So it ensures high availability and durability for you. Okay. It provides, it is a fully managed NoSQL database, and it can accommodate changing workloads with on-demand mode. So what is on-demand mode? For tables using on-demand capacity mode, DynamoDB instantly accommodates your workload as they ramp up, or it also scales down. It automatically scales up, or it automatically scales down to reach to any specific traffic level. Okay, so that's the benefit of using DynamoDB. It is fully managed and it is very fast. So how does a data model on DynamoDB look like? So these are the name value pairs in attributes for you to use. Like if you have a music, you give the artist, song title, album title, year, genre as the items. So now you have an option of selecting primary key. It can be anything like primary key. For primary key, we call something as partition key. Partition key is the key which is unique. So here it is assumed that artist is unique. So you have a partition key. You have a partition key created based on artist. But if you want to have a sort of composite primary key, so you can create a sort key in conjunction with partition key. So the combination of artist and the title will sort of create a unique key for you. So DynamoDB table is a collection of items, and each item is a collection of attributes. So here, if you full this row, it will be a collection of artist, title, album title, year, and genre. So it will be like one record within a table. When you create or update a table, you specify how much provision throughput capacity you need for reads and writes. So DynamoDB works on this principle that you have to specify the provision throughput capacity you need for your reads and writes. So accordingly, DynamoDB will allocate that necessary machine resources for you to meet your throughput and consistency requirements. So a unit of read capacity represents a strongly consistent read per second. A read capacity represents one strongly consistent read per second, or two eventually consistent read per second for items as large as 4 KB. So we will see that when we do a demo on that. So these are the supported operations on a DynamoDB. You can query a table using partition key and optional sort filter key. Querying is the most efficient way to retrieve items from a table. If the table has a secondary index, query using its key. So query is the default operation which you perform for getting information from the DynamoDB table using partition key and sort key. But if you want to scanning is also an available option which will scan the entire table for every item. It is a little slower than querying. So by default strategy, you'll use query more on your DynamoDB tables. So the query enables you to query a table using partitioning key and sort key, whereas scan will perform an entire scan on the table, which is obviously slow. So DynamoDB supports scan operation. You can use it on a table or a secondary index. Scan reads every item in the table. For large tables or secondary indexes, scan can consume large amount of resources. So for that reason, it is recommended that you design your application so that you use query option mostly, and scan can be used only when appropriate. So you use query more and scan only when it is appropriate. So on a DynamoDB structure, if you are using, so this is how an application architecture, a simple application architecture should look like. In the front, you have Elastic Load Balancer. On the business logic, you have 3 EC2 instances. They all talk to DynamoDB. So let's look at some comparison on this two types of databases and when to use what. Although this is sort of redundant, but let's walk through across once to see what choice you have to make when you want to select the database. So if you have an existing application, existing database application which is relational, you will obviously go for relational service. You are not having, I mean, you already have an application which is relational database oriented. Use it, use relational only. But if you are creating a new web scale application which has large number of small writes and reads, you will go for a NoSQL database, and the choice is Amazon DynamoDB. If your application characteristics has a relational data model and it has transactions, it has complex queries and joins, use RDS. If your schema is simple data model and it can have queries as range queries, not rather complex queries, so you can go for NoSQL. If your scaling is done by application or DBA architected scaling is required, you will go for RDS. But if you want to have scaling which is seamless and it provides on-demand scaling based on application requirements, you will go for NoSQL. DynamoDB is the option. Alright. Similarly, if your application performance depends on data model, indexing, query, and storage optimization, RDS is a good choice. Whereas if your application is performance is automatically optimized by the system, reliability and availability is of high importance, and then you go for DynamoDB. Again, considerations, let's talk a little more about that. If you need a relational database with minimal administration, go for Amazon RDS. Choice is Amazon Aurora, MySQL, MariaDB, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres. So select the scale and scale compute and storage will happen for you if you are using this as a managed service. But if you want to use a fast, highly scalable NoSQL database service, which is extremely fast performance, seamlessly scalable and reliable, choose DynamoDB. Or there is one option which you can also try, that if you want a database which you can manage on your own, you want to manage the database on your own, you want to create users for that database, you want to maintain the patching and all the requirements, your choice is choose an AMI of the database which you want. Maybe you choose an Oracle AMI and install that on a EC2 instance and use Amazon EBS for scale and compute, and then you have complete control on your database. Let's do a quick knowledge check. What are the basic building blocks of Amazon Relational Database, Amazon RDS?
DB instances.
Yes, that's right. So DB instances are the instances using which you will sort of deploy your database. That is one basic building block. It is similar to your EC2 instance, like it is a DB server in short. I can tell you like that. So when you create a DB instance, you will have to select the DB instance capacity, the size, the number of cores it requires, and all. You have to do that.
Yeah.
You are creating a resilient, durable application using Amazon RDS. In addition to RDS automatic backups, what features should you use to ensure that your backups are durable and retained? In addition to Amazon's RDS backup, automatic backup,
What feature should you use to ensure durable and retained? ELB. No.
it says automatic backup. In addition to automatic backup, what you can do manual snapshots.
Oh, in S3 we can save it.
Yes, exactly. You can create manual snapshots and store them in S3, and you will be in a position to retain them for as long as you want.
Right.
And as long as you are paying for it, because S3 is payable, right? True or false? Amazon DynamoDB allows you to store any amount of data with no limits.
Forgot about this.
Did we talk about limits?
I don't think so. I don't remember talking about limit. I don't know.
We didn't talk about limits, so there is no limit. DynamoDB will allow you to store any amount of data without any limits.
Okay.
True or false? Scan is the most efficient way to retrieve items from a DynamoDB table.
It's false. It's querying.
Yes, exactly. False. Now is the time for us to carry on with the lab 2. So in this lab 2, you will build a database server and interact with your database using an application. Okay. So if this will sort of continue from where we stopped in the first lab. So in the first lab, this was the diagram at the end of the lab after 8 steps. In this lab, you will create a database server with you will create a security group, create DB subnet group. You will create an Amazon RDS DB instance, and then you get a database connection string. And then you open your web application from a browser. You insert the DB connection string, and your app will populate table with records. So your records will fetch from the database.
Okay.
So these are the steps. You create security groups, you create a master, you create a secondary database, a slave. Your web server 1 will connect to your master, and this is how it looks like, the entire structure.
Okay.
Yeah. So the approximate time of this lab is 40 minutes. You already have these labs pre-warmed for you. So we will now go for this lab. It is already activated.
Please enroll our general membership for $399 plan to get access of all the parts.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the $399 plan and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.